Of the tools that I have found so far, these are all the extras that are not going to be kept. Hey guys, welcome back to Shawnee Hill's Workshop. Today is going to be a hard video for me to make. I have a confession. I'm a slob. I may even be a little bit of a hoarder, I'm not sure. I think most people that watch this channel know I've got a pretty big workspace here, but what you may not know is that I've got about 6,000 square feet under roof here for my workshop. Now that includes my woodworking shop, my metalworking shop, my garage, and then also a portion that hasn't been defined yet. And because I have 6,000 square feet under roof, I have tried to fill it, I guess. Another confession that's hard for me to make is I have a lot of unfinished projects. I've got a lot going on at the moment, and we've got several projects that started long before these projects that are unfinished. I noticed this a few months ago, and it got to the point where I didn't even want to come out to my workshop. It was so miserable. It kind of started last year with the off-road overland camper build. It consumed so much of my shop and every portion of it, and I also had two friends building their trailers in here as well, that it got away from me. It became a mess, and once it got out of control, I could never get it back under control. So a few months ago I decided I've got to start making some changes, make it to where I want to come back out here again. And one of the things I've started doing, I don't know if you noticed the wall in the back, I started painting in here. I built a new lumber cart, I built a miter saw station, several things, finished up some projects, but I wasn't videoing it because to me it was, you know, half a project here, half a project there, something I'd already started. The miter saw station, YouTube is filled with miter saw stations, mine is nothing special. So I didn't film it. Now I'm kind of regretting that, not so much because of those projects, but because of the lesson that can be learned from them. That's what this video is about. I'm going to start a mini series, and it's basically going to be setting up shop, setting it up right to where things are where you know they're at, to where you can get to them easily and quickly. Right now I've got so many unfinished projects or things that need to be fixed. I'm ashamed to say it. My tractor has been broke down for over a year. I know exactly what's wrong with it, or at least I think I do. I believe it needs the carburetor rebuilt. Gasoline got in the oil. I parked it. I've ordered the rebuild kit for the carburetor, but I haven't fixed it, and it's been sitting outside for a year now when I have a place to park it under roof. My old Chevy truck that I've had since I was 16, the rear brake locked up on it about a year ago, and it is set right where it was parked when the rear brake locked up. I've got a new air conditioning heat pump system for the barn that is sitting in boxes because I haven't had the time or haven't taken the time to put it in. I bought a new table saw. I'm currently using a table saw that my grandfather bought new sometime around the 1960s. I think it was 62, give or take a little bit. The bearings are out of it. When it's slowing down, the blade wobbles. It screams. It's been needing replaced for a long time. I actually bought a Powermatic 66 in an auction, and it's sitting in my front room, yet to be put in. I've also got tons of extra tools. I've been a very fortunate person. Over the years, so many older men in my life have blessed me by giving me tools or selling them to me really cheap. Because I've been blessed so much, I think I'd like to take some of those extras and bless some other young men that are in the same shoes that I was in maybe 10, 20 years ago. Between the projects, I'm going to try to be putting out fairly regular videos of just this, putting this shop together. I've laid out here on my assembly table all the extra handful for woodworking that I've got. You know, a lot of them are still in the boxes, but some of them that I had in drawers or whatever I've laid out. And there's probably more than this. These are just the ones that I could remember where they were at. I've got these three toolboxes that primarily is where I've stored them at. I'm going to go through, I'm going to try to put together my son a kit for when he's a little bit older and set that aside. A few of these have sentimental value to them because they were my grandfather's, so I may hold on to those, we'll see. But for the most part, I'm going to try to set them aside and then either find somebody that can use them or figure out some way to dispose of them. The fact is, I don't need them here in my shop if I'm not going to use them. If they serve a purpose, then they're going to stay. If not, they're going to have to go. So let's dig in and see. Alright, I figured the best place to start was by repairing the boxes that the tools are going to go in. Now, this is the one I think I'm going to put the tools that I am saving for my son in. And over the years, you know, somebody has added these little wheels to it and they've seen their better days. The sides seem to be bowing out and pulling away from the bottom, so I'm going to try to squeeze those back in and run a couple of screws into it. This is not an heirloom quality, you know, tool chest, so I'm not worried about putting some screws to the face that'll be seen. Put a couple of these parallel clamps on it and see if I can't pull it back to where it was. Now, some of this is shrinkage of the bottom panel, and I won't even try to take that up. I just want to get the sides back to where they're straight again. So off camera, I finished up putting cashers on the toolboxes just to make them easier to roll around. And I also went through all of the tools that were laying on the table and in the boxes and went through the ones that I thought that I wanted to either keep for Braden or for myself. So I'm going to take a minute just to go through each one of the tools and kind of why I'm keeping them and what my plans are. So I'm going to start out with this miter box here. This is not a tool that I think I will use in a project. I might use it here or there, but this was my grandfather's, and he was a finished carpenter, and I can remember him as a small child cutting crown molding, cutting door trim, base molding, all with this. And it's something that I want to keep mostly for sentimental reasons, but also I hope to show my son how to use it one day. And I also have the saw that goes with it, and this is an extremely heavy saw. It's amazing how thick the back is, how well made, and how sharp it is. My grandfather was really good about keeping his tools razor sharp. I've also got a couple planes here. This is, all these tools, it's the only one that is kind of on the maybe list. It's a Stanley number 6, and it was given to me by a family member, but it's rusted really bad. Up until now, I didn't want to put the work into it to bring it back to life, but recently I saw another YouTuber using a product called Evaporust, and it seemed to work really well, so I've actually purchased a 3-gallon container of the Evaporust. I'll put a link to that in the description. And we're going to try it out, and I'm probably going to do a video on it and see how well it works. If it works good, this will be a keeper. If not, then it'll probably go to the donate pile. I also have a number 5 and a number 4. Now, these are good user planes. They're not Stanley, they're Craftsman, but actually all of my user planes are either Craftsman or Bluegrass. I don't have any Stanleys with the exception of a little block plane, and we'll talk about that later. I'm sure that they are not as good as a Stanley would be, but I've been able to tune my Craftsman up really well and get some really good work out of it, and I think Braden can do the same with these. I'm not sure the vintage of them. I would guess in the 50s or 60s. It's a blue Craftsman logo, so somebody who knows more about Craftsman planes can probably tell me. The last plane that I'm going to put in Braden's box is a Stanley 9 1/4 block plane. It's a really nice little block plane, but I've never really used it much because it's a little bigger than the one I use, and because of that it just has never felt comfortable to me. My grandfather's is also a Stanley, but it's a little narrower, and because of that it just fits my hand perfect. He gave this to me when I was a young child, and while I worked as a finish carpenter, I had this in my pouch every day, and so I've used this countless hours. I'm sure that has something to do with the fact that I'm partial to this one, but it just feels like it fits my hand perfect. I've also got several hand saws that were my grandfather's. I'm going to put a rip and a cross cut in Braden's box. And then I'm going to put the rest of his hand saws in my box. Another tool that I think is important is a brace and a bit set. This was my grandfather's and I'll have it in my box. And then this is a newer version. It's a Craftsman and has a metal piece here as opposed to a wood, but it's still in really good condition, and I'll put that in Braden's box. And then I'll put the bits in. I have a little tool roll for my bits. They were my grandfather's, but the ones I put in Braden's box are just loose ones I've found over the years. And I'd love to find a tool roll for those. As I said earlier, my grandfather was a trim carpenter, so he always had coping saws. Anytime, whether he's putting crown together or base molding, it's just a commonly used tool. So these are two of his. These are newer. These were probably from the 80s. I'll put one in Braden's box and one in mine. Go ahead and put the rest of the saws in mine as well. There's a nice saw tail in the bottom of this box that will hold 5 saws. You have to rotate which way you point them. I've got a couple Yankee screwdrivers here. This is a newer model Craftsman, and put that in Braden's box. Then I have these two that were my grandfather's. This is an actual Yankee screwdriver. It can take the drill bits or the tips for screwing in. This one is just for drill bits, for small drill bits. And he actually used this up until 2007 when he passed away. He would pre-drill holes with it all the time, and honestly could do it faster with this than what some people could with the drill. So I'll definitely keep this one as well. Something my grandfather always had on him was a stick rule. I never saw him not have one with him. Even when he had a tape measure, he used stick rules for inside measurements or shorter measurements. And so I'm going to give one to Braden and keep 2 of them in my box. And we also kept a combination square for each of us. These are very handy tools. This one was my grandfather's. And something that I think ought to be in every woodworking box. I've got a couple old chisels, a 3/8 and a 1/2 inch. I need to build a till that's longer to hold these. Right now he really doesn't have anything in here to hold them. We'll put those in the box for him. Also going to put a saw file and a whetstone. Something that's going to be important to him when he starts learning how to work with hand tools is keeping them sharp. And then I know this isn't a woodworking tool, but it's a little pipe wrench. Just a handy little tool, and I'm going to put that in there as well. And lastly, I've got a couple old medicine bottles. My grandfather always kept his drill bits for the little gray push drill I showed you earlier. He always kept them in medicine bottles. And I just think it's something that's kind of neat and good to remember him by. So we'll keep those as well. And then his little torpedo level. Surprisingly, this thing is still dead on. You can turn it in any direction and it reads the same no matter how you turn it. So that's about all the tools that we're going to keep. Now to go to the tools that we're not going to keep. Alright, so here's where it leaves us. Of the tools that I have found so far, these are all the extras that are not going to be kept. They're either doubles, or I don't think that they're repairable, or I'm not willing to put the effort into repairing them. Braces, bits, of these planes, these 2 I know for sure could be made into users, as well as a couple of the block planes that are laying around. Got chisels, screwdrivers. There's just a little bit of everything. So here's what I think I'm going to do. Now, I'm not willing to ship any of this stuff, but I'm in Central Kentucky. So if you're in or around Central Kentucky or willing to drive, and these are things that you'll actually use, send me a message on my website, ShawneeHillsWorkshop.com, and I'll try to get up with you. I'd love to be a blessing to somebody. I'm not looking for somebody that's just wanting to buy stuff to put in their antique mall to sell. I really want to help somebody out who doesn't have a number 5 plane and needs a number 5 plane, and is willing to take the time to clean it up and sharpen it and get it working, or doesn't have any chisels. Some of these are really nice chisels. They're Buck Brothers. There might be a bluegrass in there, but they're going to need to be sharpened. The braces, there's nothing at all wrong with the braces. So again, just shoot me a message, ShawneeHillsWorkshop.com, and if we can get together and make it happen, I'd love to be a blessing to somebody. Well, thanks for watching. I think that's going to about wrap up this video, and stay tuned. If you like this series, please comment, give a thumbs up. Let me know that you want me to keep doing it. You have a great day.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see. From up here, the world seems small. We can sit together.